But I'm glad that we can have this hour together. Indeed, as you said, Helga, the world is a very different place compared to when we met last time in September. And yes, a virus that did not even exist back then has disrupted and dominated our work, your work. And ambassadors, you have had to organize a hell of a lot. Deliveries of medical aid, the repatriation flights for stranded Europeans. You supported aid workers, citizens and business people dealing with the lockdowns and the travel restrictions. So you have been the face of European solidarity and cooperation around the world. And I want to thank you for all these efforts. This work with our partners all around the world, this solidarity and cooperation, is more important today than it has ever been. And I say this because the crisis served as a very strong reminder of the need to tackle global challenges together. And of course, it also exposed a number of weaknesses in the global system. And it accelerated many structural changes, whether geopolitical, ecological, or mainly technological in nature. In short, we cannot turn back the hands of time. The world after Corona will never look like the world we knew before it. But our commitment to our values and to our partners will remain as steadfast as ever. And that was, of course, true regardless of the outcome of the US election last week. But like most of the world, I watched the elections intently. I was glued to the TV. And like many of you, I became overnight expert on voting tendencies in counties across Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. And I want to again warmly congratulate President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, who has just shattered multiple glass ceilings in one go. So, watching from afar, there are two things that struck me above all else. The first is the resilience and the strength of democracy. We saw more people vote than ever before. We saw volunteers working around the clock, local officials communicating honestly with citizens. And we saw media channels painstakingly explaining the results as they came in. And of course, the perfect democracy does not yet exist. But I personally believe democracy will emerge stronger from this election. And the second reflection is that the US, like many other parts of the world, has also changed over the last years. And here again, we cannot turn back time or go back to a world of before. I believe that divisions can always be bridged, wounds can be healed, but some shifts in priorities and perceptions run much deeper than one politician or one administration. And they will not disappear because of one election. So this, of course, has an impact on us here in Europe and on the next chapter of the Transatlantic Alliance. Our alliance is based on shared values and history, on a common belief in working together to build a stronger, more peaceful and more prosperous world. And these goals will always endure. But in a changing global landscape, I believe it is time for a new transatlantic agenda fit for today's world. And I believe it is Europe who should take the initiative with an offer to work together with the new administration, to work on areas that can strengthen our bilateral and our multilateral partnerships. And this should cover everything from security to sustainability from tech regulation to trade, from leveling the global economic playing field to strengthening global institutions. And these are not only EU-US issues. And our alliance is not just about us. It must be the backbone of a new global alliance. It is about working with emergent powers and like-minded partners from Africa to Latin America, from Australia to democratic Asia and far beyond. It is about working in our common interest for the common good. There are a number of areas where Europe is already taking the initiative and will be ready to work closely with the United States and others over the next year. And the first and most pressing is obviously overcoming this pandemic. In the face of the crisis, some have chosen to isolate. Others have tried to use a difficult situation to strike geopolitical gains. We have chosen to lend a helping hand to all those in need. We have sent tons of medical equipment to China in the early days of the pandemic. We were with the frontline doctors helping Syrians in refugee camps. We invested over 3 billion euros in the Western Balkans to buy ventilators, testing kits and protective equipment. And we have led the global response, putting cooperation over competition. And from the very outset, we organized a global response to coronavirus. We convened more than 40 countries to collectively raise over 16 billion euros for tests, for treatments, for diagnostics, and for the research towards a vaccine. This was an enormous experience, and we helped to set up COVAX. COVAX is the global initiative to create the largest portfolio of vaccine candidates in the world. We brought together 186 countries, but also NGOs, business leaders, philanthropists, actually many of which were from the United States. And together, we are securing millions of doses of future vaccines for low-income countries. Because we know no country can achieve this alone, but together we can. And we want to invite everyone to join us. We need to pool our expertise. We need to share our resources. And we need to coordinate our approach to tests and treatments and vaccines and vaccination. That is the moment now to do this. And actually, this will be one of the priority areas for next year's Global Health Summit, which Prime Minister Conte and I will convene as part of the Italian G20 presidencies. Lessons learned and the look forward. The second obvious and crucial area is protecting our climate and nature. Europe is a pioneer in the fight against climate change. And you know that we want to become the first climate-neutral continent in the world by 2050. And I hope in December the European Council will agree on our proposal for reducing emissions by at least 55% by 2030 as compared to 1990 levels. And we can already see that our ambition is not in isolation. China has now decided to become CO2 neutral by 2060. South Africa has announced climate neutrality by 2050. Japan and South Korea have followed suit. And of course, we look forward to the United States rejoining the Paris Agreement, as President-elect Joe Biden has committed to. So in the months ahead, we must all work to raise the climate ambitions of other countries too. We must first of all engage with the economies of the G20. They are responsible for 80% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So next year, the world will come together in Glasgow for COP26 on climate. And the world will come together in Kunming for COP15 on biodiversity. These will be landmark moments in the world's ability to push back against climate change and biodiversity destruction. And Europe will be at the forefront of brokering ambitious commitments. And I believe the United States is also well placed to support us. I mean, given the remarkable work going on in different American states and cities and companies and in civil society. These events will also be important moments for our multilateral rules-based system and the institutions that underpin them. We want to work with our partners to strengthen them, be it in the United Nations, be it in the WHO or the WTO. We need strong institutions backed by strong commitment from member countries. Our international system has been held hostage for too many years now, so the time has come to reverse the trend, to reform those institutions that need reform, and to revive multilateral deals that are essential for our common security, to create new coalitions on the most pressing issues of our times. One such coalition is needed on the digital world. This is an area where I believe Europe can take the initiative and partner up with the US and others. We need to define a rule book on the digital economy and society, covering everything from big data to big tech, from data use to data privacy, but also from infrastructure to security. And I will just name a few fields where this is particularly important. The first one is our relationship with online platforms. Online platforms have gained a huge influence and economic power. And their behavior has an impact not only on free and fair competition among businesses, but also on our democracies, on our security, and on the quality of our information. And this immense power requires adequate rules. Our values need to be protected online as well as offline. And this means, at its most basic, that what is illegal offline should also be illegal online and should be pursued just as effectively. And take illegal hate speech and terrorist propaganda. In recent weeks, we have seen once again how urgent this is. We will propose a broad reform with the Digital Services Act. It will reach beyond our targeted proposal on terrorist content and create stronger rules for the removal of all illegal content while protecting free speech. This is a very fine balance. And it will clarify the responsibilities of online platforms. So to know their business customers, to be more transparent on how content spreads, and to show how they respond to this. In parallel, we are also proposing a Digital Markets Act. And this will set out tools to address timely the economic power of gatekeeper platforms. These gatekeeper platforms we have to make sure that we protect fair competition and innovation. And these will be the rules for operating in Europe. But it will be important that, and here I come back to the global topic, that our global partners also raise their standards. So the European way on digital services and markets can be a model for others confronted by the same challenges. And so it will become an important part of our diplomacy. The second topic in the digital part is for me data protection. From Brazil to South Korea, our European rules on personal data protection have inspired others to modernize their own privacy rules. We must now put special focus on the international transfer of data, particularly after the recent ruling of the European Court of Justice. And the third topic is a fair taxation of the digital economy. Many large digital companies are emerging from the crisis more profitable and with a larger market share than ever before. Well, this is okay. Anyone who does business in the single market and thus benefits from our infrastructure, from our education system or our social system is welcomed to make profits. But our social contract expects them to pay appropriate taxes in order to contribute to this social market economy. And it cannot be that commercial giants benefit enormously from our single market, but fail to pay taxes where they should. I think this undermines the acceptance of the social market economy, and we will not longer tolerate this. And this creates an even greater urgency to find an international agreement on the taxation of digital businesses and on global minimum taxation. Our goal remains a consensus-based solution at the OECD and G20 level on both pillars of the global discussions. But let there be no doubt, should an agreement fall short of a fair tax system, Europe will act. And the new deadline of mid-2021 must be and will be the final one. So, should an arrangement and an agreement fall short of a fair tax system that provides long-term sustainable revenues, we will come forward with our own proposal. I think it is a matter of fairness. Everyone must contribute their fair share, and particularly those who are benefiting from this crisis. In other words, the digital economy should serve everyone, not just a privileged few. And for this, we need global rules and international cooperation. And Europe must be the leading force towards international cooperation on these digital issues. Ladies and gentlemen, so this was a bouquet: health, climate, digital, reform of the multilateral rules-based systems. These are some of the, indeed, key areas where I see Europe can take the initiative and offer a positive, a new agenda with the United States. And again, as we know, we cannot turn the clock back. Not on trade, not on TTIP, and we cannot go back to the exact same agenda we had 5 years ago. We should not fall into that trap. We need a fresh approach. Also because the world has changed, and so have the United States, and so has Europe. Our focus should be on providing joint leadership to address the global challenges of today without being nostalgic for the world of yesterday. And there is a lot more work we can do on our bilateral trade issues, on standards, on taxation, and many other areas. We can make quick progress together with the administration and the new Congress. And there are so many compelling reasons for the European Union and the United States, the two largest poles of free market activity in the world, to work together. That is what we will do. And at the same time, we will continue to work on all our partnerships, whether they are easy or they are complicated. So take China. The EU-China relations are of real strategic importance to both sides and to the world. But this relationship is also one of our most challenging. And you have heard me say many times, China is a negotiating partner, an economic competitor, and a systemic rival, all at once. We have many interests in common, for example, on climate change. But we still have an unbalanced trade and investment partnership and long-standing issues on fair market access, reciprocity, and overcapacity. And there is no doubt that we promote very different systems of governance and society. And we must always continue to call out human rights abuses wherever they are. The European Union is fully committed to a genuine, result-oriented engagement with China. And indeed, we made some breakthroughs at our recent meeting, but we are also realistic. We need to see concrete results if we are to conclude negotiations on an investment partnership. Concrete results are necessary. The point is that Europe is ready to work on all of its partnerships, whether with neighbors, competitors, or difficult negotiators. It is important for our own interests and for strengthening global cooperation for the common interest. But Europe can only play its full role in the world if it is strong internally and if it takes care of it itself. So being geopolitical, as you said, Helga, means understanding the links between our domestic decisions and our external action. And we have everything at our disposal. A unique single market and social market economy. A position as the world's first trading superpower and the world's second currency. So we have to keep up the momentum on all of our priorities. Look at ourselves, from completing the banking union and capital markets union, to strengthening our industry, to doing more to strengthen our defense and security, and you name it. It means being assertive in defense of fairness, for example, whether through a carbon border adjustment mechanism, this will be a big topic, or digital levy, as we just discussed. The stronger, more assertive we are internally, the more we can achieve in the world. And that is how geopolitical power is built. And nowhere will this internal strength be more important than in building a better world after the crisis. I spoke about our global response to the pandemic. Now I would like to conclude about our recovery and how you can support it in your daily work around the world. Over the next 2 years, governments around the world will spend around 10 trillion euros for the recovery. And this is money that we are borrowing from future generations. So we borrow now on capital markets, and we will have to give back in the coming decades. But the choices we make today will define the next generation's lives. Our choices can and will shape the economy that the next generation will inherit. And for this reason, our recovery plan is called Next Generation EU, and it's a huge responsibility. We want to use it not only to recover, but to come out of the crisis with a better economy. It has to be greener, it has to be more digital, and it has to be more resilient, and thus fit for the next generation. Europe has chosen to invest 37% of Next Generation EU in projects with a positive impact on the European Green Deal. And we commit to invest the rest only in projects that do no significant harm. We will invest another 20% of Next Generation EU on digital projects, on infrastructure, technology, artificial intelligence, data. And we will ensure the recovery is fair for all and makes our economies more resilient to external shocks. This is a must. Ladies and gentlemen, to achieve all this, we will need allies and partners all across the world. And we need to draw on our strength to make that happen. A united Europe is a diplomatic power that can make a difference on the international stage. We have a clear understanding, the new US administration, but also many countries around the world. We all have a clear understanding that global cooperation needs to restart. It is up to us to take the initiative. And we have the best and most experienced team to guide us through these uncharted waters. I think, for example, and want to thank our High Representative Vice President, Josep Borrell, for his statescraft, his statesmanship, and his diplomatic knowledge. All these skills will continue to be invaluable as we enter this next chapter in global affairs. His experience, his skills, and his drive, and they are impressive. And I also want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to Helga Schmidt. She has helped shape the EEAS from the ground up. And she has been the authority on EU foreign policy for, well over a decade. From Javier Solana to Josep Borrell, her advice has been precious. And her negotiating skills are an inspiration to many, legendary. So she does not need luck in the next chapter of her career, but I know you will join me in wishing her all the best. So as she will no doubt tell you, wherever you are posted, this is a moment for action. It is a moment to reach out and make clear that Europe is ready to engage. Engage for recovery, engage for resilience, engage for reforms. Indeed, Europe is ready. Long live Europe. Thank you.